Grow, Sell, and Retire is the podcast for the lazy overachiever. B.D. Dalton, author of True Gravity and Grow, Sell, and Retire, is here to give you his 25 years of secrets, tips, and systems to take your business to the next level. This is your chance to find out what is working in sales, marketing, and running your business. If you stop learning, you stop earning. Now, here's your host, BD, with today's GSR podcast.
Hey everybody, BD Dalton here from the Grow, Sell, and Retire podcast, bringing you my interview with Mark Kinney of Think Multifamily. We're going to talk about how to start a business, how to keep a business going, what are some biggest barriers to entry, and also why you shouldn't just wait until it's perfect before you start your business. Sit back, grab a pen, grab a coffee, and let's listen to my interview with Mark Kinney. Mark, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Super excited to be on.
Cool. So tell us a little bit about what you do in a minute or two, and then then I want to walk into how did you get your start?
Sure. So our company name is Think Multifamily. We acquire typically 100 plus unit properties as a general statement. We're in 5 states right now. And we also have an educational group where we'll host events, and then we have one-on-one coaching as well to teach other people that want to syndicate or raise money from other people and buy larger properties.
Very cool. And is yours mainly, right now you're just in the States? Is there any, we've talked about it before the show, you've been in a multinational company. Have you thought about taking your stuff overseas?
If we did, probably more vacation type stuff, I would think. We can go use it ourselves.
No, that's good. So when you did this, so how did you get your start in what you guys do?
So I grew up in Michigan. We're in Dallas now, but I went to school for accounting. So I went to Michigan State University. But in college, I have an identical twin brother as well. We were both kind of like, there has to be a better way than everyone else we see in our family and in the world that we knew in that small little town, what they were doing. So we said, everyone needs a place to live. Why don't we buy real estate? So when we were 22, we started looking at smaller properties, 2 to 4 units, and we got a property and started buying, multiple properties at a pretty young age. But we were still working for corporate. So I was CPA, and then my brother was CPA, and then we both did IT consulting. I continued to buy smaller properties. And then 2013, we were like, you know what? My brother really wasn't doing with me anymore. His wife kind of wanted to get out of it, which is fine. So my wife, Tamil, and I were like, hey, she was really more like, hey, you need to do something different because you're working literally minimum 80 hours a week, consistently. So I would sleep about 3 hours a night. And we had 2 kids at the time. And I actually spent a fair bit of time with the kids, but I spent no time with Tamil. And she had a problem with it for some reason. I'm not sure why, but she did. So she's like, you need to do something different. I'm like, yeah, my spare time, how's that going to work? So I said, if we're going to do, real estate, which we both had a passion for, we've been buying smaller properties, but we said, there's no way I can replace my income, doing IT. I had my own IT business at the time by buying these small properties every 2 to 3 years. It's just not going to work. So a friend of ours was syndicating a deal, just a fancy word for raising money from other people to buy larger properties. We invested with him. And I'm like, hey, this doesn't look that bad. I mean, if he can do it, I can do it for sure. And so I'm like, okay. So we started looking at doing syndication. And it took us about a year to get our first deal, a little over a year, I guess. And we've bought over 5,000 units since then, 5 different states. And we're kind of like, hey, this is where we both love. This is where it's hard work at first, but you can get to a point where you could get to a point where you didn't have to do much. I mean, I don't really want to be where I'm sitting on the beach full time doing nothing, but my IT business, it was so dependent on me. So for me to make money, I had to be on projects because people wanted me on the project. So I had a hard time scaling that. And all these deadlines and demands and unrealistic, deadlines, and I would say, hey, I'll meet your deadline no matter what. Just tell me what the deadline is. I'll meet it, and I did. And I had a number of Fortune 100 companies as customers because of that, but it caused a lot of family issues. So that's kind of the why was, hey, I need to get out of this business because it's kind of killing my relationship with my wife.
That's crazy because if you think about it, a lot of people stay in their jobs because they have anchors, and not anchors in a bad way of people, but bills to pay. Why would you risk our family on that? Why would you do that? But you kind of Tamil kind of went the opposite way of, it doesn't matter when you're making the money. If you're not here to spend it with us, or if you're going to burn yourself out, there's got to be a better way to do this.
Exactly. That's exactly right. I'm sure my health was, sleeping 3 hours a night is probably not great for you. I'm sure.
No,
So.
I'm pretty sure that Ariana Huffington would have said, her sleep book. I think you were who she was talking about.
Oh yeah.
So definitely. So this is one of my other questions, is because one of your, when we talk about suggested topics and things like that, when we're going through show notes for people, yours, and made me very excited, was side hustle. Is when does somebody go from having something on the side, so maybe they join one of your syndicates and invest, to turning it into their proper main hustle? This is now a job and not just a pastime. How does somebody go about doing that without kind of being pushed? Yeah,
and we have a number of people in our group that are kind of in that situation where they're W-2, and for me, it kind of came down to, I was making good money in IT. I had a wife and 2 kids, so I would just, I would say don't be irresponsible, in my opinion. I know people that quit their jobs and they don't have any money in their savings and they don't have a backup plan or anything like that. So you can have a dream and that's great, but you need to be responsible too. So for us, it was, hey, we don't need to make as much money as I was making in my IT business to live a pretty well life. It'd be nice to. And actually, before I started, and I told Tammy too that, hey, I'm not going to be able to replace my IT income with real estate. I really thought there was no way. I was making good money, and but I said I don't really need to. We can still go out to eat and have place to live, cars, things like that. So I said, well, when I got to the point where I felt like, okay, I had a little bit of money in the bank, not a lot at the time, but I had a little bit of money in the bank, probably might have been maybe 6 months if I had to spend it, And I said, well, I'm still making, money a little bit from IT. I cut that way back. And then I said, you know what, it's time to just cut it back completely. And I stopped taking on any new projects, which was scary for me because I was like, man, I'm giving up all this money I could be making, and, but we had a few projects. So I guess it was my 3rd deal that I got that I felt comfortable enough. So I tell people in general, doing one deal is not going to put you out of your W-2 job typically, for most people.
Yes.
For me, it was 3. I got, a 255 unit, 208 unit, and a 64 unit. And that put me in a position where I'm like, okay, I'm good. I can actually pay the bills and do a couple of extra things. And from there, it just kind of spiraled into more and more deals. We've done, 35 deals total since then, I guess, I'm around there. But I would say be responsible. You can cut back a lot of areas that you might not think you can. Like we didn't have cable. I don't really watch TV anyway. So things like that, I'm like, hey, those aren't things you really need. Now, I'm not saying you need to do that and be in a position where that's the rest of your life. I don't think you should put yourself in that position. If you want more things, and do something to get more things. But for a season in your life, you might say, I'm willing to give up that, and I'll, whatever. I won't go out to eat as much because that gets expensive and things like that. So make some sacrifices. I don't think you need to go live in the street. But if you're willing to make some sacrifices, cut back, you can save a fair bit from probably what you're spending today. And then with the time, people say, I don't have time. It's like, well, okay, I didn't have time either. I worked 85 hours a week. It's like, that's pretty hard. But I had to make a decision. I cut back and started cutting back, slowly at first. And all of a sudden, cold turkey, after the 3rd deal, I'm like, okay, I'm going to totally not take any new projects on. So I think for other people, figure out what you need to survive. I do think you need an emergency fund if you want to say you need, a few months of some cash just in case. If you have a family, if you have a family, make sure you're taking care of the family. Don't be irresponsible. Just quit your job. But I would say try to find things that you're doing today that aren't really building your business and stop doing those things.
Yeah, and hanging out with the people that aren't going to build your business and do that. So let's go to the next stage here, because I think that this is really good. So you made your leap after 3, so you got yourself to about 550 units for your own stuff. Now you get to a stage where, you know what, this is going pretty well. I think I know what I'm doing. You have your ed group and your coaching, so you've now branched out into other deliverables, other services. When did you feel confident enough when you said, you know what, I've got this licked, now I can charge people to help them, become lazy overachievers in the property market?
Yeah, sure. So we were very familiar and even involved in a mentoring group and familiar with some of the other ones. We went to events and we saw, if you want to say, in my opinion, the type of service that was providing, which wasn't good, in my personal opinion, and the type of education being provided, which wasn't very good either, in my opinion. And we're like, man, I really wish I've done at that time, let's say it was, I'd done 5 deals by the time we started doing education, or more than that, I guess. But I was like, man, I really wish somebody would have told me all these things before I did my first deal. I mean, why didn't someone tell me all these things to watch out for and all these things that could go wrong, and, how to overcome all these issues and things like that? It was always sugar coated. Everything's perfect. Nothing ever goes wrong. I mean, it's like, it's not reality. So we wanted to develop something where, one, we were going to have we want the most educated multifamily investors on the planet. That's one of our goals, right?
Okay.
And having a community where people know, like, trust each other, want to do business together. So my wife, to me, was always about community. I wasn't at first, because I was IT, CPA. I mean, I just there to fix problems. Well, she was always much community, and now I am as well. We do a cruise, in June, where people come on there, and it's mostly just, fun type cruise, and we hang out with people in our group. So developing the community, developing education. In reality, it came down to, man, if we were able to do this with, my opinion, not great support, if we provided phenomenal support people, can you imagine what people can do? How fast they can do it? So that was our goal, and we both fell in love with it. And we do events now. We do one-on-one coaching, and it's a big part of our business, and we love doing it.
It's a good part. And so now, when you look at it, what's kind of the breakdown of revenue? So, as in revenue that in percentage, you don't have to tell me the exact numbers, but the revenue percentage that you get from the actual bricks and mortar versus the education and training. And then also your time breakdown as to how much time are you having to manage people and stuff for the bricks and mortar versus your education. So where's your time split and your revenue split?
Revenue is probably 50-50.
Okay.
Time is probably 75% on the education, 25% on doing deals.
And did you go through and start to create modules, or did you create the whole, so how did you go about figuring out what part you're going to educate people on first in the ed groups and stuff? How did that come up?
Yeah, so we did create modules. We created them all. We didn't wait. Some people do like one at a time, release it. It took us about a year, which is almost embarrassing to say that. I'm looking back at it. I'm like, okay, it was a lot to create in a year, but on top of everything else. But there, modules about training, and we created some tools. With the IT background, we created a few tools as well, the kind of things that I thought were frustrating to me as a real estate investor, and I wish I would have had a tool that would do the X, Y, and Z. So we created some tools for that. But that was kind of really our goal. Really was to get out there and create all encompassing, not bits and pieces of it. And it's hard, right? Because we can both sometimes be kind of perfectionists, which is not great to be an entrepreneur. It's not. So you have to get over that too. And sometimes you just have to say, okay, well, it's 98%, 95%, whatever it is, it's good, and you can always come back. And we did that. We actually did some new videos, new recordings, added new stuff, new content. We're always changing things and always adding. So I think before you start, don't think you have to have every single aspect of every single piece of it nailed down before you get started, because it's just too overwhelming. You won't start. So
if you were going back and you were telling Mark and Tammy 5 years ago before, when you came out and you started doing this, would you say don't wait until you've got the whole course planned out, or not course, but beginning to end of property purchasing? Would you say release it in chunks of the basics, intermediate, and advanced, possibly something like that?
I would. And, now I can say, well, it was okay that we did it that way, but that's because we've already been through it. If I looked back on it and said, well, I would have done more, like afterwards, we created some shorter videos, 5 to 12 minutes a piece per step. So 14 steps. I would have done something like that first and said, do people even want this? Do people like it? So always start kind of smaller, test it with people that you hopefully already have test it with your current audience and see how receptive they are. If they're not, then probably nobody else is going to be. And you can always add more and more. But to your point, I would say yes. I much would have rather started smaller and tested it, see how it's going to work. And then if it works, you can always add more and more to it.
That's really good. And so now you have your brand, you have what you do. So how are you marketing right now? What's besides coming on podcasts and doing some of this stuff that you have locally, how are you educating people about your education, telling them where you are and how to get a hold of you?
Yeah, we also sponsor and attend a number of other events a year. Probably 6 to 8 events a year we'll sponsor, and some cases we're title sponsor, so we get the name recognition that way. We get to do presentations. So we're always presenting different places, whether it's locally or we go to, we fly around, probably half a dozen times a year. We get to do it together, which is good, but that gets the brand out there. And then through social media, and we also give away I tell people, if you want to build a list, social media isn't a list. You can't email them, right? It's just, we know a guy who literally had 1 million followers on YouTube and he got cut off of YouTube like forever. No joke. And he doesn't have access to those people. So what you want to do is give something of value, whatever that is. Even if you're new, you still probably know more than the average person if you're kind of in the business a little bit. Come up with 10-step checklist to, 10 things to look out for before you buy multifamily, whatever it is.
Yep.
And then, you want someone to either your website or through social media, you want to pop up where they can put in just basic email and name. Don't ask them for phone number and address because there's too many fields on there. People won't put them in. Mm-hmm. Give something of value. People aren't going to give you their email address because, you posted something on Facebook and said, can you give me your email address? You have to give them something of value. And you have something of value, I'm confident, if you've even been in the business a little bit of time because you've learned a lot more and usually a lot more than you think you do when you start talking to other people. So give something of value, get people on your list and start communicating with them. Could be a quarterly basis initially, quarterly newsletter, monthly, whatever you want to do, and just tell them what you're up to.
That's if you're going to start a business and you don't think you've got something of value, then maybe you shouldn't start a business.
Exactly.
If you don't believe in yourself, you're the only one that does at the beginning of everything.
Right. So, maybe your mom, maybe or something.
Yeah, but your mom knows, how much money your mom has usually. So it's hard.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, that's true.
So another one of the things you talk about, and I if you could walk me through it, is servant leadership. What is servant leadership?
Yeah, I mean, it's, one, and I'm not just saying you need to be humble. I mean, I don't care if I have $1 billion. I'm not just saying that. It's, one event in your life, something can happen to your kids. Something can happen to you medically. One event can change your life forever. So these guys that think they're all that because in their self-proclaimed or whatever, the best in the world at everything they do. And, talk about the money they make all the time and the cars they drive. I like cars too. And I like houses and stuff like that, but you're never going to see anything on Facebook about any of those things. So for me, being a servant leader where we will serve other people in the group, we're not above them just because we're their mentor. We have a leadership group where we solicit feedback. We change stuff all the time. So end of the day, it's giving back 100%, no matter what. Doesn't matter who the person is, whether you think they can provide something for you or not, you should treat them the same way. And being humble and flexible enough to adapt and change, even though you think you know something. If 10 people are telling you that you need to change something, then you probably need to change it. And then we give back outside the group too. So we're very, supportive of some charities, or orphanages and sex traffic industry are big passions for us. So always giving back, always treating people with respect, treating them the same, no matter whether you think you can get something from them or not, and being open, humble, and realizing that, we're just here for a short period of time. And I can't believe how old I am already. Actually, seriously, I'm thinking, my gosh, what happened? And so it'll happen fast. Even if you're 20, you're going to blink and you're going to be 40. So it's crazy.
Cool. So you and Tammy, what are some goals for the business for this year, for 2019? I almost finished out. So how about the next 12 months, not just 2019?
We'll continue to buy. It's getting tougher, but we did 2,500 units last year. So for the next 12 months, probably want to do about 3,000 units because it is getting a little bit tougher. Do more if we can. Want to be able to, we have about 80% of the people in our group that get into deals in 6 months or less, which actually is phenomenal if you actually compare to other people in the industry. And unfortunately, originally I had 100%, and unfortunately, I wish it would be 100% of people always going to do it. A lot of things come up and life events and things like that. But I always want to keep a very high percentage of people that can get involved in deals and keep growing that. If somebody wants to get in multifamily and they put the effort in and do what we tell them to do, then they're going to get into a deal. So we want to bring more and more people in that want to be involved. We're not trying to just, twist people's arms to get involved. There are a lot of people that want to join our group that we don't let join our group because it's culture and there are a lot of other things we're trying to protect in the group. But keeping the culture with great people that want to, work together, do business together, coaching students, continue to get coaching students, and then have other people in the group give back. So people in our group give back to other people that come in. Not because we ask them to or make them, they actually want to do that. So they proactively spend time and get distracted by teaching other people in the group, even though they're not a coach or they're just a regular person doing deals. And it's phenomenal to see that. So keeping that culture, cool. It's great for us.
Okay. How about a bit of technology that's either making your life more fun or easier or something like that? There's something out there that's really, really got you going or keeps you going.
Not really. I mean, we have some reports that we get that are kind of more market reports. There are several different ones like Yardi and CoStar, and they're paid subscriptions. But those give us a lot of information, especially as we're looking at new markets.
Yep.
Those are probably the top ones that provide the most valuable information. End of the day, though, they're just reports. You have to get boots on the ground. Like I have a guy my twin brother lives in Atlanta, and I have another guy in Atlanta that's been there 26 years. He's a broker. Having that type of local expertise is invaluable, and the reports are great, but they don't tell you really what's going on. You need somebody physically there. You need that market presence of someone that's been there a long time and has seen the different activities happening. And I can't say they predict because nobody can necessarily predict, even though people try to guess, but they can kind of predict what's going to happen in different areas because they've seen multiple market cycles in the area.
And so to make your life easier on a day-to-day basis for you personally, you're not using any Asana.
So we use Asana. I don't know if you're with Asana, but more of a tracking tool for tasks and things like that. So good question. That has made our life so much easier, especially when we're trying to try to find stuff. I know 6 months ago I had that. Was it an email? Was it a text? Was it a Facebook message? And now we just go to Asana and do a search, and it has saved us so much time to assign tasks and find things that we know we did before in the past and be able to reuse them. So it's been great.
That's awesome. Okay. And then how about something that you're reading right now? Something that either business or personal? What's kind of your anything that you're reading or listening to on a podcast?
Well, actually, I'm really actually very much into fitness. I know it doesn't do with real estate, but that's a big hobby of mine right now. So reality is we have a remodel going on in our house. We have a fitness stuff going on that I'm very interested in, a little obsessed with. So I'm actually kind of tapped out a little bit on time, other than like Googling things when I have questions. I don't have a book right now I'm reading. We've done a 4-month remodel that's still in the process, and I work out 6 days a week. So I'm not on top of an event coming up in less than a week. I've been tapped out a little bit on the extra time.
No, that's cool. Perfectly fine. Yeah. And so lastly, here's if somebody's listening to this at the last minute, of the show and they wanted to go back and say, okay, I want to go back and listen to Mark Kinney. So what's your top tip for people coming into business, not just property business, but business in general? What's your top tip to people?
I would say, don't wait till you know it all, because you never really do. And you have to get good at something to where people see it as valuable. So just because you think you're good at something or you think it's valuable, it doesn't matter. Other people have to see value in what you're providing. So if there are 6 different ways to get involved in our business, get really good at one of those 6. It's like a specialty as a doctor, right? They make more than a regular doctor. So get really deep and try to pick something that you like, not something that you think that, the other guy did it and he was successful. Try to pick something you like. You don't always have to do things you don't like. Sometimes you do. So for us, if someone's really good at finding deals, great. You don't have to have any money to find deals, and you can make a lot of money by finding deals for other people. So give value back, really, what it comes down to, and get really good at least one thing that other people see value in.
So give back, which is that servant leadership stuff, and make sure you specialize in the beginning. Make sure you specialize, and then how do people find you, Mark?
Email address is Mark, M-A-R-K, at thinkmultifamily.com.
That's perfect. Mark Kinney, thank you so much for coming on the show today. Really enjoyed having you on, and thanks for all your thoughts for the Grow, Sell, and Retire listeners.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks for joining us on Grow, Sell, and Retire. For more information, tools, or to book one of our team members to work with your team, business, or to speak at your event or conference, visit bartdaltonconsulting.com or email contact@bartdaltonconsulting.com. Buy the book True Gravity on Amazon. If you want to work for the rest of your life, that is your business. If you don't, that is ours.